Thank you very much for staying on the market. Please welcome back. And the second deputy governor of the central bank, Dr. Johnson Isiama, is currently answering questions put by the Public Accounts Committee of Parliament and into some activities of the bank in 2015. This is part of hearings by the Public Accounts Committee into the activities of the bank recorded in that particular year. Let's go back to Parliament for details of that proceeding.
So if you are located in another part of the world, you would have already seen what is about to come. Now, when the auction, the particular one you are interested in, when the time is due, they deal with their bankers in Ghana for settlement, and that's it. And I believe that before these auctions are done, there's some adverts or something ministry churns out. And so it's there. It's transparent.
I think that is beyond the Ministry of Finance issue.
They can give more details on that.
Honorable Aban.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Can you turn with me to page 28, paragraph 53 of the first half year report? Management and technical service fees. We reckon that it reduced drastically from 69,377,134 US dollars to just 19,949,130. That's commendable. But my question is, these consultancy services, were they contracted by the Bank of Ghana itself or government? And the next question is, where were they performed or done? And why dollar denominated?
Honorable member, this is a statement of receipts and payment of foreign exchange.
Yes.
So if it's a city, it won't come here. So why is it dollar denominated should not be part of your question?
Very well. But that's what, once they answer the question where it was performed, are we fine?
Mr. Chairman, it has nothing to do with us. It's not any services to us per se. These are management and technical service agreements. There are certain agreements that are reached with the Ghana Investment Promotion Center and certain inflows that are allowed under that agreement. So that is what is captured there. I agree with you that if you see lesser and lesser of that, it means that there's less pressure on your currency. There's been arguments that we should reduce that regime. And so I think it should rather be a good thing. It's not as though there's a service to us that has gone down. No. It is probably, I believe if you speak to GIPC, they can give you the proper context. There seems to be some reforms on that front right now. Yeah.
Honorable Nto, do you have any question?
Mr. Chairman, page 28 of the first court, the first part, June. On the fourth line of sundry payments. Even though I'm asking the question, the earlier answer given by the governor puts me off, and I was not happy with the response that he gave when my sister, my colleague sister, the member, the only lady on the committee asked that question. Mr. Chairman, if you have sundry payments, then that line, the auditor says sundry payments made during the period totaled 88.5 million US dollar. Now, they were not able to provide what actually went into this. Can the governor tell us to some extent? Because sundry payments alone, 88.5 million, I think it's a very substantial amount that we need to know the nitty-gritty of or whatever went into that amount. Page 28, page 28, paragraph 55, under sundry payments.
Honorable member, if you can go to page 42, there are some details on it there. Schedule 7 on page 42. Where is it?
And then you see your figure at the last but one row, grand total, the last, and 88,569,338.08. You see that that's the figure you see there. So it's a summation of inspection fee, freight insurance, and correspondent bank charges, medical subscription, those things. So, oh, are you okay?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, again, I was looking at the embassy transfers for the half year. Now, still on page 27, if you come down, I think I want to play with the auditor. Next time, it should be itemized so I can quickly make reference. We have Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia, Lome, Togo, London, Tehran. I don't know whether the London is the capital of Tehran. We have Rwanda, Angola, but that's not a substantive issue. If you look at the amount under 2015 totals in dollars, it is $3 million. Now, and to me, it is the highest. What accounted for that? Because London alone and Tehran, they had 3 million, whereas others had less than even 200. I mean, just a little above 200. Can you explain that to the committee?
Mr. Chairman, again, let me repeat what I said. The Minister of Foreign Affairs can speak adequately to this, but the explanation we were given, I also sought an explanation of this. What I was told was that the London-Tehran one was because the London embassy, they had to deal with them on behalf of the Tehran mission because they couldn't do it directly. I'm told it has to do with some sanctions here and there. So Minister of Foreign Affairs can tell you in detail about that. And then also in certain instances, it has to do with certain expenditures that were to be made the year before, certain 2014 expenditures that were now being made in 2015. Then thirdly, you also have the falling value of the CD at the time, and so the CD allocation had to be increased for some of them. But I would advise that please invite the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. They are on top of this. They will give you every detail.
Chairman,
Honorable, you see.
No, I'm not asking the question. I'm just, yes. Mr. Chairman, you just introduced the Auditor General. We are all just trying to find out something here. The Auditor General is in our midst. We are hoping into an audited account that was done by him. We have the luxury of the man himself sitting here. Now we are drifting into a situation where when we ask the auditee, well, you have to go and ask these people. We have to, the person who audited this, he's here. Can we have the luxury of sometimes he chipping in some information to us?
No.
Okay. Thank you.
Honorable, you see.
Thank you, Chairman. Governor, Deputy Governor, I want to refer you to the second half of December of the report. Yes, page 31. Paragraph 59, table 15. On the first item, gold and the movement. So we are suffering a decrease in the reserve balance. Yeah, no, on the gold, the first item.
Movement in the gold
movement,
figure,
yeah, movement.
it's valuations.
Valuations.
Yes.
So is it to price?
Sorry?
Price?
Yes, the valuations.
We didn't sell gold.
No.
As a reserve?
No. You know, as the governor said, it's at the end of the period, we value our holdings of gold. So depending on international price movements, it could go up or down. Basically, the stock of gold we've had has not changed for quite a long time. Whatever it is for a long time now, I think it hasn't changed.
It has not changed?
No.
So the decrease is due to price changes. Now let's come to sovereign funds. Sovereign fund, the last item on the same table. So is this a stabilization?
That's the heritage, Ghana Petroleum Fund.
So, and that one too has come down. So what has happened?
At some points, there were withdrawals from the stabilization fund to support the budget, as stipulated in the law.
So again, if you want more information, Minister of Finance can give them.
Okay, I'm sure. Chairman, thank you for the opportunity.
Honorable Roxon.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Governor, if I may refer you to page 28, paragraph 54 of first half, and page 29, paragraph 53 of the second half. Are we there? Now, this is in respect of institutional subscriptions. My understanding is that these subscriptions are annual payments. But I see from the report that whilst we are making payments, for instance, for the period under review first half, we paid 3,571,675 for the first half. And then for the second half, we paid 12,632,772. Now, my question is this: did we, within the period, subscribe to more international agencies, or we owed subscription fees for some time, and you were compelled to pay these amounts within the period under review? Because I see a big jump, particularly for the second half, if we didn't subscribe to more agents, international bodies.
Well, Honorable Member, I don't think that they'll be able to respond to that question. It's the Ministry of Finance that must do that. But the two reports are relating to same year. So you could pay some subscription at the early part of the year and pay the rest at the second half of the year. All of them fall within the 1 year. So the issue here should not be, they should be the same, because it shouldn't be pro rata, because you're not paying the subscription for every 6 months. It's 1 year. So it could even be that the total of the two could be done in the first half of the year, and the second half of the year is 0. Or first half of the year is 0, and then second half of the year total. So that shouldn't be an issue at all.
Yes. But Mr. Chairman, you see, the nature of the report gives that impression. So like my brother said, the Auditor General should be making inputs.
Yeah, this one, we can ask the Auditor General to provide more information on that. When you are doing the audits, how did they fare? Is it because of additional subscription to be paid, or is the same subscription but paid at different time period? You can provide that information. And if you are willing to do that, you can let us know now.
Chairman, you provide information later.
Thank you. Honorable.
Yes, Mr. Chairman. I asked this question earlier, but the answer didn't go down well. So let me come again. From page 16 of the first report under manganese, where you said you were not miners, so you wouldn't know how it is. 2014.
What we meant was that we do not generate the data directly.
Thank you.
Sorry.
2014. And you see, you projected, you received foreign affairs, foreign exchange inflows was $14 million. Now, you've made us understand that when these new companies come and they register, you are made aware of it. How can you go from $14 million for the first half of 2014 and project 50 million? That is quite, tripling your projection. That is where I have an issue with. You go from 14 million to 50 million. You are not even doubling it. You are more than tripling it. So I have an issue with your projections.
Mr. Chairman, what we said again was that the manganese story could be driven by different factors. If the international price of manganese declines sharply, some of these companies decide not to export. So that could be at play. I agree with you, there was a decline the previous year, they have to factor it in. But they know the story more than anybody else. So we will try to evaluate the projections as we said going forward. We will go mid-year to revise some of them. We will do the best we can. But we just want you to remember that at the end of the day, it is the players that gives these projections. And so there's bound to be some variances here and there. I want to believe that the 50 million there was based on certain projections on their side that did not come to pass.
Yeah, okay.
Follow up. We know that cocoa, we are not producing 1 million tons. So if Cocoa Marketing Board comes to tell you that we are going to produce 2 million tons, are you just going to accept that number? Or you will try and find out these projections? Come on, there's got to be something behind it.
50 million here. Now, you don't need to increase production, alone. If prices double, you may be producing just a little beyond the initial tonnage and still attain that. So if it drops to, then they reverse. Honorable member, we get the point you are making, but we also want you, don't go away with the impression that we just, no. But at the end of the day, it is they have to generate these for you. But we will evaluate it. We will go again mid-year to make sure that the projections are intact. That one you can be assured of it.
Thank you, Governor, for assuring us that you will not be accepting whatever these producers bring. You have to go further to interrogate it and do your analysis. But, Honorable Member, let me just remind you that in 2014 and 2015, we all recall that even the price of crude, which was projected by the budget to be sold at $93 per barrel, ended up below 40. So that was a very major factor to affect the budget. And so it could happen that the projection was all right, but the price could fall sharply, and then the end result will be a little amount of sales.
Mr. Chairman, I agree. Where it didn't go down well was when they said they were not miners. And that's where I wanted to bring this point. You don't have to be a miner. We all know that.
Honorable Chairman, if probably you misunderstood me, I apologize. What the comment I made was that okay, I think we'll leave it at that.
Thank you very much, Honorable. No, you have your point.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, Honorable.
Chairman, I have 3 questions, but but you said we could ask 3 questions. Before I ask them, let me. I have not asked any question. Mr. Chairman, before I ask my question, I see some in the second half of the year report. Can we turn to page 11. Page 11. I think there's an error, if I'm not. Yes, page 11, second half. Page 11. Paragraph. Page 11, under Memorandum of Accounts. Memorandum of Accounts, I think so. Where, V, paragraph V, where in the final part it said the total foreign exchange and through dealer commercial banks was 4.277 as of 31st December. If you turn to page 33, I think the figure is misstated or misposted, or I don't know how to look at it. Yes, so the same report. The table, the last one, the figure has swapped. Page 33, the table, where you have schedule of earnings by dealer commercial banks, the figure is now 2.88. You've seen the difference? Okay. Oh, okay. Sorry for you. Okay, so that is that. My first question. Have you noticed it?
I think that is a typo on the part of the Auditor General. Exactly.
Okay. Yeah. No, that is just correction. I haven't asked any question. Mr. Governor, is Bank of Ghana able to capture all the forex that is supposed to capture under the law? And if you are not, do you have an idea, a percentage out there that you are not able to capture? If you don't have, will you sponsor a study to know what is out there that you are not capturing? Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I think that yes, we capture all the forex that we can capture, whether by way of trade, whether by way of investments, remittances and the likes. I think we do. We don't have reason to think otherwise.
Saying that everything that you are permitted by law to capture, you are able to capture 100%. Don't you have any leakages?
Mr. Chairman, there would always be leakages because it's about that. Wait a minute. It's about balance of payments recordings. Some of the very, very small items you may not. Take, for example, you go to the United States and you are coming back to Ghana, and a family member says, please take $6,000 to my grandmother in the village back in Ghana. Ideally, that should be part of our balance of payments. But how can we record that? So you would always have some of the small slippages. But as far as we are concerned, we think that we are able to capture the major ones.
My worry is that, yes, I appreciate these small ones, but don't you think that there could also be big ones that you are by law supposed to capture and you don't capture, and that you have to make an effort to find out what is not really being captured out there?
Mr. Chairman, if you are talking about inflows or outflows,
inflows, I'm talking
inflows. Anything coming into this country will come through the commercial banks, even if not through us. And the commercial banks, you know, they have returns. They have specific returns that they fill out to us.
Is it not possible that somebody who is a corporation, who laws are made, it doesn't necessarily mean that everybody obeys the law? Don't you think that even some corporations, MMDCs, may simply not be surrounding the project?
No, we have what is known as the ITRS, the International Transactions Recording System, and it is something the banks, fill out for us constantly. So we capture all these inflows, whether even the embassies, the foreign embassies, the monies they bring in, we capture them. The financial NGOs and the likes, the monies they bring in, the banks are supposed to. So we capture data on those ones. But Improvement, there would always be, some need for improvement every now and then. Even the classification, we notice that sometimes the classification is not well done, etc. And we've been trying to improve the ITRS system. But that said, the small ones, as I mentioned, etc., those definitely you may not be able to capture. But as far as policy is concerned, we think that we get all that we need to make policy.
Chairman, let me do a follow-up on that. If you look at page 11, then page 33, foreign exchange earnings from dealer commercial bank. My worry is that you mentioned 27 banks that you deal with, but you have not provided the list of those banks. Can you provide us with a list of the dealer commercial banks?
We'll do that, sir. And remember, that is us at the time. Currently, the number has gone up, but we'll provide those 27 banks at the time.
So I think we are done with your question. Please.
Was it 1, 1, or 2?
No. Honorable Koshigan.
Okay. Chairman, thank you very much. Just a little clarification. Deputy Governor, please. We now know that with the domestic bond that we earlier on talked about, the transaction was paid for in US dollars by the participants. Now, if the participants paid in US dollars, and that's what you took custody of, what then makes it a domestic bond? I want to understand.
Honorable, I disallow that question. Deputy Ranking.
Chairman, Deputy Governor, I want this clarification. If you check that is table 10, page 23. Yeah, I think the second one. Yes, no, let me check that. That's page 23, 10. First, yeah, I think second, yes. I think here there was this charges that you put it under other charges and fees. And you know that in banking, most of these things affect the customers. And you know the figure is a bit huge, $970,470.
I think that figure is for 2014. Yeah. And there was no charges for 2015. Can there be any reason?
Mr. Chairman, we can get back on that detail as well. We'll get back on that.
Okay. Then let's check on the miscellaneous capital payments. You captured it. When you check, that is between 2014 and 2015. 2014, it was 366 million. 0.27570, and then it shot up to 550 million, giving us a percentage change of, 50.5%. Why did you decide to capture it under miscellaneous? Because it's quite a figure.
Mr. Chair, that specifically refers to loan repayments, so debt service. So that's the technical term that we have for it. It's a debt service.
Honorable Vice Chairman of the Committee, have any question?
Chair, I will offer to do a public interest question. Mr. Governor, what is the monetary policy rate as it is today?
Honorable member, is 23.5% currently.
Are all banks complying to this rate?
Sorry?
Are all banks in the country complying to that?
No, the policy rate is the rate that prevails. When we deal with banks, that is the rate that we use to deal with them. As for their own operations, like when individuals go to them, it may be different. It's not exactly the same thing. But we expect there to be some link over time. Yeah.
And that should not be operating below that?
We don't have any law as such when it comes to the... You are talking about the lending rates by commercial banks. We don't have laws that kind of regulate lending rates, in Ghana. What we do is we use moral suasion. If you notice from last year, we were doing it and then we started again. We are now publishing what we call the APRs, the annual percentage rates of banks. The idea there is so people can see which banks are likely to give you a cheaper deal and thereby guide people as to where to go. So those are the subtle ways we are using, to engineer some downward movement in the lending rates of banks.
So substantively, I just want to find out from you, do you still have any intention to reduce further the monetary policy rate? That will at least give a very low interest to businessmen in Ghana. So we are looking at, will you promise that a very low rate?
Mr. Chairman, these things come at a cost. There's no free lunch in economic policy. When you lower the interest rate, there's something else, the policy rate, there's something else that you do. I said that our primary mandate is to ensure price stability. If you lower the policy rate when inflation is on the upward, or when inflation is still high, then you are endangering that price stability mandate that you were given by, an act of parliament. So it all depends on what happens going forward to inflation in particular, as well as the other indicators we monitor, things like the business confidence, things like consumer confidence. It also depends on what happens to the exchange rate, what happens to expectations of economic agents. All these go to determine whether we should lower, whether we should stay the same, or whether we should increase. But that said, let me assure you that for us at the central bank, even though the price stability mandate is primary, we go to the same market. We borrow from the same banks as you do. And so we all yearn to see a low interest rate regime happen in this country. And I think that so far, so good. We are on the right track. Let's hope things stay the same. We will enter into that space sometime in the future. Thank you.
Chairman, I'm done.
Thank you very much. Shall we now go to the ranking member of the committee?
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. I also go the way the Vice Chairman went, going the public interest question. Given what is happening in the economy in terms of the exchange rate stability, Ghanaians are very pleased with that. But just this morning, a friend of mine came to my office and he was asking, how sure are we that this is not a 9-day wonder? And you and I know that skepticism or speculation has serious effect on how far we can go in stabilizing the exchange rate. Ghanaians are watching you and listening to you. What assurance can you give to the public that this stability is going to continue as the economists say, all things being equal. Thank you.
Thank you again, Honorable Member. You know, I said earlier that anything you do has a cost. Exchange rate stability for us, that is consistent with our exchange rate policy framework. What we do and seek to do every day is not to defend a particular rate, but to act in such a way that the volatilities will be minimized. As for the actual movement in the rate, you know, we should expect to see those. You will see the CD go down to 4.1, comes back to 4.16, you know, but what we don't want to see is frequent big swings in the amount. The other side of the story is exporters also depend on the positioning of the CD. It hurts their businesses. If the CD is too strong, in other words, what economists say, when the CD is misaligned in real terms, that will hurt exports. And so we look at all these numbers, and that is why it's not all the time that you see us reacting when CD is probably, moving. We need to be sure that in real terms we are not hurting exports. We need to be sure that we are encouraging exports, because that is the assurance that we want, that there will be stability going forward. But let me assure you that down the road this year, we do not see the need, we don't see a return of the kind of extreme volatility we saw in the past. Why? Because the macro is aligning well. The fiscal, yes, it is a problem, but I think that with all the assurances we've got from the budget, etc., we are dead on track. So once that happens, we should be able to attain our objectives, including ensuring a stable exchange rate going forward. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ranking. This committee, which is a committee of Parliament, is actually working to ensure that Parliament, which has the responsibility to monitor foreign exchange receipts and payment or transfers in and out of Ghana. Your mandate as the bank is to ensure that foreign exchange payment, receipts and payment and transfer in and out are recorded by the bank. Now, the reports have been issued by the Auditor General. Their recommendation is that you should continue to strengthen your control mechanisms to ensure that we achieve this objective. So I also want to add that whatever it takes with the bank to ensure that foreign exchange receipts and payment, not only that belong to governments, because the law says, or the constitution says, in and outside Ghana. So it is not saying that only those in and outside Ghana belonging to government. So all foreign exchange receipts and payment, either private sector or government, is something that you have to take care of. So we do everything so that people who, through other means, to find way of taking foreign exchange out of this country can be minimized. That is the only advice I have for Bank of Ghana, so that we can ensure that the little export earning that we are getting are not taken away through any other means, which will put pressure again on our currency as we look for dollar or other foreign exchange to import into this country. So we thank you very much for coming. I've been calling Honorable Hadi throughout the meeting, as you see. I want to do that correction. Is the Honorable Member for Nanton. It's Honorable Hadi. So, Honorable, thank you very much for correcting me. This is the first sitting, so I'm bound to make that mistake. So we thank you very much. We want to thank the Auditor General himself and the directors, deputy assistant auditor general, no, assistant auditor. We have deputy auditor general here. Oh, what is that for? Why are you seated there? You're welcome. So we thank you for coming. The House is accordingly adjourned, and the Deputy Governor and the Directors of Bank of Ghana are discharged.
Very much, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
But the committee will sit again, that is after you have left. Oh, sorry. I've just been informed that we have provided lunch for our guests. So don't go. Meet us at the other side where we take our lunch. Thank you very much.
And that was live proceedings from Parliament, where some of bank officials, the central bank, have been answering questions by the Public Accounts Committee concerning some payments of the bank into the bank in the year 2015. That's it for the Marketplace. We'll be back with you again tomorrow for more stories in the world of business. Good afternoon.